Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. It's Sue and I'm excited to talk about exactly what the title says, which is basically just every job that I've had in my 20s and how much I got paid. And I'm inspired by this video here by Sabrina Gonzalez, where she breaks down all of the roles she's had and how much she was compensated. I want to take that one step further and I want to kind of explain what I've learned in all those situations and how that's brought me to the role that I'm in today. If you see me looking over here, it's because I have a ton of notes on this because I've been thinking a lot about my role this past week, and I've been thinking a lot about how I got to where I am, and explaining it sometimes to my friends is kind of hard, especially to friends who are not in this tech or corporate field. So there's a lot. I believe in salary transparency, so I like the idea that people on the internet are sharing how much they're being paid, and that has helped other people to discover where they are at comparatively and also how they can get to a similar path. Let's start off with the first job I had in my 20s. So this is not my first job ever. I think I had 3 jobs before this, but this was my first job in my 20s. I was a sophomore in college and I had an assistant teaching job at my school. It was through the university and I got to work with some of the best professors in my entire life. The one professor that I was under, he was just so incredible. I found this job through a friend. He was studying abroad and he needed someone to take his place. And so thank God, because this is by far still to this day one of the best jobs I've ever had. I worked about 5 to 10 hours a week and I worked what was then the Georgia minimum wage, which was $7.25. I'm actually not sure if Georgia has raised their minimum wage since then. And so when I was working at this job, it made me think a lot about what kind of boss do I want to work for? The boss that I had, he was a professor and he taught me so much just about tech, about life, about education, and how I can bring all those things together and find things that I find enjoyment in. The professor I worked for, he was so cool. He knew so much about tech, about politics, about life, and I felt like every time I talked to him, I just learned a little bit more. I got to sit in on a lot of his lectures, and that was so amazing. I can't believe I got to sit there and I got paid for that because I would have paid thousands to have been in his lectures. He was just so inspiring. He was a great speaker, but he also was so incredible at drawing in crowds. And I remember some of his classes were like 3 hours long, but I never once got bored. Like, he was just so good at captivating people. And because of that, ever since then, I've compared pretty much all of my bosses and managers to him because he had such a way of making sure that I felt important. So when he talked to me, I felt like I was being listened to. But at the same time, he wanted to make sure that he was guiding me in the path that I wanted to go to. He asked me a lot about my career goals, and that's the kind of relationship that I look for now when I'm interviewing at different jobs. Like, who am I reporting to and how are they going to impact me? Because while I do want to bring value to whatever company or to whatever team I'm working on, I want to make sure that I'm receiving value as well. That was my first job in my 20s and it was just so great. I think about it all the time, especially about my professor, because it was just cool and it was fun. And I'm so glad that that was my college job and it wasn't something boring or hard. The second job that I had in my 20s was my first internship. So I interned at Samsung SDS. So this is a little bit separate from Samsung Electronics, which you might be more familiar with. They make, the Galaxy, they make home appliances, but Samsung SDS is a little bit different. It's a different branch. And I was working at an office in New Jersey. This office was mostly Korean. Almost all the employees were Korean. And the greatest thing about this job was that I got to have lunch every day that was Korean food. And it was amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen those TikToks of like lunch of an average Korean worker. I'll try to find one and put it here. But that's what I ate every day. We had guk, which is soup. And then we had fresh rice every day. We had banchan, which was like side dishes, including like kimchi, or sometimes it would be like a stir fry. And then we had like a main course, which would be like tonkatsu, which is like a pork cutlet, or we would have kimbap, which is like those little Korean rolls. And it was just so good. I looked forward to lunch every single day. After lunch, I would just sit there and be like, oh, I can't wait for lunch tomorrow. The thing about this internship was it was incredibly boring. It was one of those internships where I don't think my team needed an intern, but they forced an intern on there, which was me. They didn't have anything for me to do, and it kind of just ended up me being like an assistant who sat there waiting for a task to be done. For this job, I got paid $18 an hour. which, considering that I did nothing every day from 9 to 6, I will say not that bad. Comparatively, my friends who were also interning at Samsung SDS, they got paid the same, but they were doing much more work. A lot of them were engineers or in marketing, so they had to do actual work. But I did really nothing every day. And I felt kind of bad for my team because I was always hovering around them looking for something to do. I was just so bored every single day just thinking about lunch. So from this job, I've really come to learn, what do I want to be creating? What is the output that I want to give out? As much as I would love to have a job where I'm not that important, I also want a job that feels slightly fulfilling. I want to feel like I'm doing something that makes a difference, and that if one day I suddenly disappeared, the company would just be at least a little bit sad because I had some impact to the teams that I was working on. The second summer of my internship, I decided to go somewhere else. So Samsung had asked if I wanted to come back, and I had said no because I wanted a different kind of internship. So I was open to interning pretty much anywhere. I wanted to be in New York City, but I said, you know what, that might be a little bit narrow. I have to be open-minded. I was a computer science major at school, so I wanted a software engineering internship. And so I eventually accepted one at Target, which is headquartered in Minneapolis. My sister did work there, and I loved it. I loved what my sister was telling me about the work, especially about how the teams were formed and how people were working together, and the benefits that she got both in insurance, but also in Target discounts and all the events that they had. It just seemed really glamorous, so I was really happy to accept that role. I was a software engineering intern. I think I received $22. I can't find any documentation of this, but I do kind of remember it being somewhere between $22 and $25 an hour. And I do know that the tech interns made a little bit more than the other interns. So I know that there were interns in inventory analysts and marketing, but they made slightly less than the software engineering interns. I made a video all about my internship experience. If you do want to watch this, warning, I had just started YouTube, so the video is not super great, but it talks about my experience, and I was really happy to share because I had such a good time. My summer in Minneapolis was so good. It was so much fun, and Minneapolis was so beautiful. Target really wants you to come back. So they want to make sure that the interns come back for their full-time programs, and they make sure that they have a lot of programs in place so that you feel connected to their teams. So they had Q&As with upper management, like CEO, CFO, CTO. We got to do our own demonstrations of our projects. We had a lot of events in the summer, not just for interns, but for the entire company, for people to check out different departments, to learn about upcoming things that are happening at Target. And Target is such a beloved company in the States, so you best be sure that they want to make sure that the employees love working there, and honestly, they do. The team that I was working with just loved being at Target. A lot of them have been there for years and years, and they loved the environment. People are really relaxed about things. For instance, if you went out because your child was sick, they were chill with that. People covered for you. Nobody was mad at you if you came late. Everything was really relaxed, and everyone got their shit done. Nobody was worried about not meeting their targets, and that was just really cool. And so because of that, the thing that I learned the most at Target was, what kind of company culture am I looking for? So what kind of things do I want my leadership to demonstrate, my management to demonstrate, my teammates to show me? And so while I had learned about what I wanted to do, I also wanted that feedback of, what is my company doing to make sure that they're retaining the best talent and that they're hiring the best talent out there. While I did choose to go to Target as my internship, I did get several other internship offers. So I had an internship offer at an American bank, which I did not choose because it was in Pennsylvania and I didn't like the compensation. And then I also had an offer as a data analytics intern at a major food company, a brand that is well loved. But both of those, the compensation was kind of low, and I would have to find my own housing, which was a difficult part of interning at the time because we didn't really have remote working back then. So I decided to go with Target, and I was really happy with that. So after my Target internship, I spent my senior year looking for a full-time job. I particularly at the time wanted a job in either product management or in software engineering. I was looking for new grad roles at a large company. So that's where I was headed. Unfortunately, in 2020, March, the pandemic hit before I graduated, so everything was a mess. There was a lot going on. I moved back home to New Jersey and I was scrambling to find a job as I graduated in May of 2020. During that time, I did get several job offers. Let's see what I had. I had a software engineering offer at a massive bank that I was just not interested in doing. I had a data analytics internship, so not a full-time offer, at a branch of the government. The work that they demonstrated to me was quite interesting, but I did not accept that role. And then I ended up taking an internship at Zora, which is a fairly big tech company. Most people I know have never heard of this company, but they are a public company and they do have a very startup-y mentality, which I was interested in, and they offered me an internship. So I got paid $25 an hour for 40 hours for 12 weeks. And so because this role was technically based in Atlanta, that's what they paid me, but I was working remote. I was working at my home in New Jersey, and that's how much I was paid. The thing about Zora and the team that I was working on, everybody was so intelligent. I loved all of the people on my engineering team, and it was so crazy how all of these smart people were working towards one thing. And that blew my mind. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just really cool to see people coming together and brainstorming and figuring things out as they happen in real life. And that's what I've been told is a very big startup mentality. Things happen very, very quickly, and there's a very much push and go mentality that people are just shoving to get things done and then fixing things as they break down. I will say that while my coworkers and my mentor was incredibly intelligent, I don't think that the company was ready for interns. They didn't quite have an environment that welcomed the interns in a way that we would want to come back. And I was thinking about it recently, and I was looking actually if any of the interns actually ended up working there, and none of us did. They weren't really a nurturing environment that fostered personal growth. They were working towards everybody pushing towards the company agendas. And while I do understand that, at the same time, if you're having interns, it's a little bit of a different story, especially me coming from Target, where I learned so much about my own personal growth and how that would lead to company growth. I had thought about Zora and was like, they're doing their own thing and I'm doing my own thing. The thing that I took away from working at Zora was, what kind of job am I well suited for? So I had been a software engineering intern and I had been a computer science student, but is this the right fit for me? I had never stopped to think about that before this internship. So I had done my entire 4-year degree of computer science without even thinking if I wanted to work in tech, if I wanted to be an engineer for real. Honestly, I was a little stunned that it took me this long. It took me a job where I was really pushed to be an engineer that I realized this is not for me. But even through that internship, I was hoping for a return letter. I applied to a different role in Zora because I liked some of the aspects of Zora and I wanted to stay there, but unfortunately I did not get a return offer. And because it was peak 2020, I should have known that it would have been difficult for them, but I was actually disappointed. I think I cried when my manager called me and said he could not give me a return offer. So for the next couple of months, I spent most of my time applying and interviewing and trying to find any job that would take me. Again, this was during the pandemic, so there weren't a lot of roles, and at this point I was getting kind of desperate to have any job. I was like, at this point, I'm smart enough to take any role, please God send me something. But as I got job offers, I realized I don't want to just take anything. And so I got a couple of offers. I got one offer as a data analyst at a Big 4 accounting firm. That did not interest me at all. I don't even know why I applied and interviewed all the way through to it. And then I got another offer as a business analyst at a major American financial institution. I don't want to say what company it was, but their interview process was really great. But at the end, when they had told me exactly what I'd be working on, I was like, that sounds so boring. I did not want to do that. So eventually, at the 6-month mark of me being unemployed, I got a job offer as a consultant at a small consulting firm. It was roughly 300 people when I first joined, and they did have an incoming class of people, which was really great. So I got to start as a new hire with other people around the same age as me, which was really cool. I was a fresh grad and some others were too, and so that was really exciting. I had very little expectations. From what I knew about consulting, I knew it would be difficult, My starting salary as a analyst was 65K plus a bonus that happened to come quarterly. And I will admit, the quarterly bonus was quite a lot. It was like 5 to 10K depending on the work that you output. And I was really happy with that at the time because it was clear that the bonus was linear to how much work you put in. And that was mind-blowing to me. The idea that it wasn't just like somebody writing out remarks about me and then debating whether they should put me in a category for a bonus. It was literally, they crunched numbers and I could see where those numbers came from of how many hours I worked for whichever clients, and that would be my bonus. And so because of that, I loved working at this company. It was a small firm, so they promoted me from within quite quickly. So after about 7 months, I was promoted to an associate, where I made 80K plus a quarterly bonus. And then a couple of months after that, I think maybe a little over a 1-year anniversary of me working there, they put me as a staff consultant and I made 100K plus a quarterly bonus. Again, this quarterly bonus could be like 5 to 10K. And so you were making quite a lot of money for a person who was 1 year out of school. And so I was really happy working there. There were some days where the hours were really long. Like I would be late into the night crunching on those PowerPoints and those Excel sheets, but I knew that I was making money, so I was happy with that. The thing about consulting after graduation, you learn so much so quickly about consulting, and I was really happy with that because I still had a lot of energy from when I was in school, and I was happy to be learning a lot. The thing that I learned the most about consulting was improv and public speaking. So I spent so much of my time just making things up as I go and being good and well spoken to the point where clients were confident in me more than I was confident in myself, which was actually so crazy. Like I always sounded way smarter than I actually was, which makes me laugh looking back. I knew so little, but I spoke as if I knew so much, and that was just what consulting is. I really valued like the prep work I got to put in, the hours that I spent with my teammates, and the trust that I had. Like I knew almost instantly if I would be good at working with somebody because we would balance things out very quickly working on a consulting team, and I really loved that. After about 1.5 years of that, I grew kind of tired of that mentality, that idea that you could, make money so linearly to how much work you put in, because honestly, there were days and weeks where I was just low energy. I was just not feeling it. I was sick. The work just wasn't interesting to me. And so I would have low output and then my income would reflect that. And I just didn't feel like that was always fair because you have high days and low days. So I was looking for something brand new. I started interviewing about the 1-year mark of me working there, which was almost 1.5 years out of college. I got a new role. I work for a fairly major tech company where my title is Business Systems Analyst, and I work fully remote. I started when I signed, I made 125K plus 30K of RSUs and then a 5K signing bonus. I negotiated this quite a bit with my recruiter because I was very comfortable in my consulting role and it would take a lot for me to have quit. So I negotiated this a lot and I was just really happy with what I signed on to. Since then, I've been working about 1.5 years and now I make 145K. I can't remember when that happened, when I started making so much more, but it incremented little by little. We do performance checks twice a year, so it must have been just a little bit every year. And I'm really happy with the team that I'm working on. I learned a lot from being here. I've learned a lot about working across different teams, not just with engineers, but with different types of people all across the company, and about managing expectations, about working with other people. When you're working cross-functionally, their priorities are not the same as your priorities, so you have to manage that at an individual level too. I've also learned a lot about corporate networking, which is really, really difficult for me because I am such an introvert. Because our entire company is remote, I've been pushing myself to meet other people on different teams just so that I can get a better sense and network my way around if I ever wanted to switch positions. I've learned a lot about just company things like RSUs, employee stock, how to evaluate your benefits, see if they're any good, how to get more insight on your actual company and where they're headed towards the future. Because previously I've been working at a smaller company, there was no news articles about where we're headed. Now that I work at a big company, I can see more about the direction that it's headed, the stocks, and what other news outlets are saying about our company, which is quite interesting to say. Anyways, I hope you can't tell that I am sweating talking about all of this. I've had quite a trip down memory lane thinking about all the jobs that I've had in my 20s. I'm now actually 26 and I'm hoping to stay at my company for a little bit longer, and we'll see moving forward. I hope maybe in my 30s I can make another video about where I left off from here onwards and tell you guys more about salary. I'm happy to say that salary transparency has helped me so much. I've learned a lot to negotiate and how to see where my benefits stand across different companies, but even to people within my own company, I'm a lot more comfortable speaking out about that. And so I'm hoping that it becomes common practice, especially for women who are working and need to know how we stand amongst the men. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!